Plaintiff Tanya Thomas Hutchins grew up in group homes, and she was sexually, physically, and mentally abused throughout her childhood. Tanya claims she went into the military, and while there, she was raped, and the defendant, her son, is a product of that assault. She's suing her son today for unpaid loans. Defendant Isaiah Thomas says Tanya has always been a good mother, but they started having issues after he had his own children. Isaiah claims Tanya is controlling, and she doesn't approve of the way he disciplines his children. Isaiah denies owing his mother for anything.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Hi, Your Honor. First, I want to say it's a blessing and a curse being here. It's a blessing to be able to meet you. And it's a curse that I have to bring my son here under these circumstances. I want to also ask for counseling if that would be able to be allotted to me. And you're here exactly why, during my testimony here. I had not a good life growing up. I was removed. I'm sorry. I was removed from my mom at the age of 2. Me and my siblings placed in the system because she had a drug abuse issue. We were placed in New York. I'm from New York, so we were placed in the system in New York City. From the age 2 till I was 18, I was abused. We were abused. We were sexually abused, mentally abused, physically abused, emotionally abused. Every abuse that you can imagine. I've been molested. I've been burned with the iron. We were told that we were trash. It started in an institution, and the institution branched off to group homes throughout the state of New York.
Right.
And we were together at first, me and my siblings, and then they separated us.
So how long were you at the institution?
I was at the institution till I was 6 years of age.
And then how many group homes did you live in after that?
I lived in a total of 3.
And all 3 you suffered abuse?
Yes.
Fellow group home residents or who?
More so the young ladies that were in the group home, the older girls that were in the group home.
They what?
They would cut your hair, make you look like a boy, make you do things. Some group home parents would also touch you inappropriately. We could not show emotion. We couldn't. Who do we have to tell? These are the people that are supposed to protect us, were abusing us. There were times where if they were called go off would mean if you would have a temper tantrum or do anything out of the norm, they would take you and they would medicate you. And they would control you as far as different medications where you were a zombie, almost like a zombie,
What'd you do at 18?
Well, at 17, I joined the Navy. And I'm sorry, Your Honor. I was raped in the military by a service member. That's how Isaiah came to be. He would rape me constantly. He would never hit me in the face because I would have to show my face and my arms when in my uniform, so it would never be anywhere where I was beaten in the face, I was choked out. This man, after I had my son, he raped me in the hospital after giving birth to my son. I was terrified, Your Honor. This man, he just tortured me. When the nurses and everyone came, because they would check you out and seeing that things were going on down there heavily, they had asked me what had happened, and he's standing there, so I couldn't say what had happened. and he made me name my son after him. 3 days later, when they allowed me to go home, he had came to the house and said that he would kill me, him, and my son. I ran to the police department as fast as I could. And when I came through that door, they didn't know what to do. And I just kind of threw myself on that desk and I said, please come get this man out of my house because he's going to kill us. And they raced. I had 2 officers running with me, a couple of officers driving, guns blazing, and they removed this young man out of my home. Good. And said that he could never come back to the state that I was stationed in. 3 days later, I changed his name to Isaiah Thomas.
Good.
And I just never looked back, but I've always lived in fear because he didn't live but a state over. Yep. And I've asked to be stationed other places due to the traumatization of this young man.
And your son, how was it over the years raising him?
He was awesome. He was an awesome and a phenomenal child. I couldn't have asked for a better son. During the years, I had 3 more. I had twin daughters, and I had another son when I was stationed in Hawaii. But this young man, he graduated high school at 15, went to college at 16, was the youngest ever to attend that culinary school. I took him to school every day for 17 months, every single day. I was there for him.
Why'd you have to take him?
He was 16, and I wanted to drive him.
16.
16. I wanted to drive him back and forth.
Did he want you to?
I don't think that he minded. But the one time he wasn't there when I picked him up, I kind of went crazy because I didn't know where he was. One of his friends brought him home. And, you know, I cried and was like, don't you ever do that again.
So did you all ever come to a point of contention?
No.
Okay, only this incident, the loans, are the only time you've ever had a problem?
Yes, Your Honor. I was raped in the military by a service member. That's how Isaiah came to be. And he made me name my son after him. When they allowed me to go home, I ran to the police department as fast as I could, and they removed this young man out of my home. 3 days later, I changed his name to Isaiah Thomas. Good. But I've always lived in fear.
Defendant Isaiah Thomas is being sued by his mother, who claims she grew up in group homes and was sexually, physically, and mentally abused throughout her childhood.
Let me hear from you, sir.
My mom has always been a good mom. She'd set like a pretty good example, you know, for the most part. And I didn't really have any issues, you know, growing up. I didn't really start to have issues until I got into my adult years. And I feel like that was more because the control factor, you know, like mom had a very set way that she wanted to do certain things. And I noticed when I was around like 21, you know, that she could be a little revengeful, you know, if you don't do things the way that she wants you to do them. But I didn't really look at it like that.
Give me some examples.
I had like people that were in my life, you know, as far as like hobbies, you know, I came in contact with like a mentor when I was 21. Well, I feel I still talk to him to this day, a really good friend when I started getting into boxing. And she didn't really like him. You know, she didn't like the way that he acted or presented. It wasn't like he was doing anything to put me in harm's way or anything, but she just didn't like him.
She never gave you a reason?
She just had her own, it wasn't a clear reason. Okay. It would just be like, oh, well, he's shady, or, you know, I don't trust
That's a
him.
very clear reason, sir.
But to me,
I don't want shady people in my house.
I agree.
Did you ask her why she thought he was shady?
No, I don't think that I really looked into it that much. I just looked at the fact that he was guiding me in different ways that was helping me in my life, and there were no negative consequences from those like things that he was teaching me.
And you have no idea what all this came from, why she was like this or anything else, the control.
I feel like because of her upbringing and what she went through in her lifetime, like it would make sense that like, you know, I want to try to take control, like from a place of fear a lot of times.
Right, protect you. From an older man, she had her experiences with older men. You're a younger man. A lot of times that scars a person where they don't see the good in a situation. They're very suspect. of a situation.
Yes.
I'm suspect of a lot of things. My family called me paranoid, but I say I'm cautious, not paranoid. And it's because of what I went through as a kid and what I've seen. And so, yes, I'm cautious about a lot. And that's what I'm hearing. That's immediately where I went.
Yes.
When you said shady, and she gave you no real explanation that he was an older guy with a younger man, that's where her head probably went. And I think that's what you were probably suspicious of, wasn't it?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, as long as you understand, her life has created who she is. If you live somewhere where racism is prevalent and you're always being called names, then your worldview is that most people are racist. Because you've been victimized by that all your life, by the majority of the people you know.
Yes.
You're probably wrong. You're likely to be wrong. Everybody isn't racist, we know that, but I'm just saying, you know, you get jaded by your experience, your trauma that you suffered, and that's your worldview. To give you another example of myself, I am always cautious about people, guys, black men, thinking they're tougher than me, because where I grew up, the closer to white you are, the weaker you are, the softer you are. They start calling me punk when I was 5. By 10, they were robbing me. And so you grow up thinking, I gotta prove I'm tough because people don't think I am. Bought a gun at age 11, and then nobody wanted to get me no more. And I became known as Crazy Gregory. Leave him alone. So that was another thing, and that's another part of my worldview. All right, don't come at me now. I know you don't think I'm tough. you need to know me. So I say that to say that's where views come from, those formative years. And so that's her view on life until she changes it. That's my view on life. I talked to the therapist and he said I would have to come every day for about 10 years to change my view on life. So I said, well, I'm just gonna be this. But that's why we're gonna help you get counseling.
Thank you.
And so that's her view on life until she changes it. That's my view on life. I talked to the therapist and he said I would have to come every day for about 10 years to change my view on life. So I said, well, I'm just gonna be this. But that's why we're gonna help you get counseling.
Thank you.
Defendant Isaiah Thomas is being sued by his mother, who claims she grew up in group homes and was sexually, physically, and mentally abused throughout her childhood.
And I'm glad you have at least some sort of understanding of your mother's reality and her state of mind from the time she was a very, very young child. And it did nothing but grow worse. It did nothing but grow worse. That's what I see in your mother. Her formative years, she was repeatedly abused, so that's her view of the world. So I'm glad you understand that part. Anything else you want to tell me about that? On your relationship with your mom before we get to the loans that she's alleging?
I started to have more issues with my mom when I started having like children, 24. And it was.
You have 24 children?
No. That would be nice though, but no, definitely.
At age 24?
Yeah, at age 24,
All right,
yes, sir.
go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. At age 24, I had my first child, and we started to have issues because of like how I discipline my children, you know. And my mom, she's more for the corporal punishment. Mm-hmm. I definitely have a different approach with them. I look at children the same as I look at adults. I feel that there's a way that communication is very important. I ask questions. I make my children explain. I allow time to open up the next opportunity for the child. So at some point in time, that child's gonna need me for something. I'm very adamant to say, I'll give you your needs legally, whatever legal needs I need to bring to you, you have those, but you get nothing else.
Thank you for defeating these stereotypes, because there's a stereotype in our community, in the black community, that only white folks talk to their kids into being nice, and they say, well, black folks, they just whoop theirs. You talk to them. Talk them out of disrespecting you. All right, we just gotta learn that. In fact, you're doing a great service to the black community. Y'all hear him? He don't have to whoop his kids. Just I know people say, why do you always talk about race? Because we need to. We don't know each other. White people don't know nothing about black people for real. And we don't know nothing about white people for real. We think we know this little stuff that we see at work, that we watch on TV. No, that ain't what's happening, what you see. And so we need to know each other. So we have now a leader in our community. Mr. Isaiah Thomas is going to be a leader in our community on how to resolve disputes with our children when they curse you out and disrespect you anyhow. All right, sir. I appreciate your professionalism today. I appreciate your understanding of your mother. And now I'm hopefully going to appreciate your answers on the $5,000 loan she's suing about. Tell me about the loans.
I have loaned Isaiah Thomas. I've 16 different loans.
How many?
16 between January 21 to May of 21.
When was he to pay you?
Isaiah was to pay me in June, and I have not yet.
When you ask him, what has he said?
I ain't got it.
Did you say, give me time?
He had said give him time. Isaiah is his own person. Isaiah have a job. He wants to work for himself. And
Good.
I don't have a problem with Isaiah working for himself. But as a man, when you tell me something, I expect you to deliver, if not have a conversation. Let's communicate.
Was it reasonable for you to believe you could get paid back the next month? Because if your last loan was in May and you had been loaning him money January, February, March, April, May, what make you think that 5 months of borrowing can be paid that June? Did he have a windfall he was expecting that June?
Well, just trusting his word, but when he sent me a message saying, well, I will give it to you, he started working at a job, and he said, well, I'll pay you in December. That was more reasonable for me, okay?
Correct,
I'm
of 21. Correct.
Yes. So I took him, okay, he's working now, he's gonna start making payments. December come.
He never made any payment?
Not one payment until March of 2022, when Mr. Thomas he slid me $200 on my cash
You
app.
haven't received anything since? And when you ask, he says he's going to get it
When
to
I
you.
ask him, it will stop badgering me, leave me alone. I don't got it. I'll wait till my taxes get here, the famous phrase that pays. The famous phrase that pays.
Taxes.
I had to stop speaking to him because I was really upset about this money. And he would always, oh, Mom, you got it. I don't have it. I don't have it to give. It's one thing, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. I'm struggling with my lupus. I'm doing all these other things that I'm a traveling nurse, so I'm here, there, anywhere. But I'm lending him this money with the expectation of getting it back. And every time that I would speak to Isaiah, it was a situation that has nothing to do with me. I just want to know when. When are you going to pay me my money?
Thank you for defeating these stereotypes, because there's a stereotype in our community, in the black community, that only white folks talk to their kids into being nice, and they say, well, black folks, they just whoop theirs. You talk to them. Talk them out of disrespecting you. All right, we just gotta learn that. In fact, you're doing a great service to the black community.
Defendant Isaiah Thomas is being sued by his mother, who claims she grew up in group homes and was sexually, physically, and mentally abused throughout her childhood.
What do you say to this, sir?
So me and my mom had stopped speaking for a little bit of time. Like, she stopped really speaking to me because of the discipline situation with the kids and just.
How many children?
I have 3 in total, 1 stepchild and 2 biological.
Okay.
So in like 2017, mom stopped talking. We weren't talking anymore. And then fast forward 2020, the pandemic hit. So we were, I'd seen through other family members, she was trying to reach out to me. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, we had some time to kind of maybe cool off. Maybe we can do this, a little bit better. We can talk. Simultaneously, like my mom had said, like she paid for the student loan for me to go to culinary school. So I was a chef up until 2020. We did exceptionally well with the catering business. Then we were non-essential on the oldest child's birthday. So I pivoted. I got into customer service, doing life insurance. By 2021, because we had started, kind of reconnecting in 2020, I ran out of my savings. Like there was no, because the capacity where we were able to hit like 6 figures in 2019 with the catering, we couldn't do that in 2020. So hit like all my savings was gone. And mom was, very, sympathetic and helpful. And the loans and stuff that she was speaking of, those were like gifts. Like those, it was never brought up like, oh, that this is.
Let me see the size of those loans. You have a list?
I do.
Because certain amounts would be clearly gifts, but some might give the impression more of a loan. For example, if I see a bunch of $50 and $10 and $20, yes, I would believe all of those are gifts. But if I see some 700s, some 1,000s, some 1,200s, most people would, particularly you're single, a single woman, that would be a loan.
Okay, Your Honor,
In most cases, let's see.
if we can go to page 8, the first 3 loans were in cash.
Yeah, they're all big.
If you can see the different amounts that.
Got you on a few of these 50s.
Okay. Okay.
Most of them are, you had me for a minute because you got 1,100, 800, 700, 900, even 100 I was giving you a pass. But then you got 50, 50, 50.
Smokes.
Smokes?
Yeah, carton of
Crack?
smokes. No, just cigarettes.
Oh, $50. Oh, okay.
Okay.
You know, I started to say I know him when I see him. Not him. He'll lie in a minute about whether he owe his mama, but other than that, he's a good man. Ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me how it would occur, because these look like, Mama, can you send me some money to get some, or 1,100? No, that ain't no mama, just send me some money. What was that for, the 1,100?
His rent that he was behind.
What about 888?
That was for Georgia Power.
About the 700?
That was for food.
Food?
Food and incidentals, things that he needed.
900.
I'm not sure what Mr.
You got
Thomas.
another 900 the next day.
I'm not sure what Mr. Thomas needed these other monies
So,
amount.
Mr. Thomas, let's go over these top ones. These are the big ones. So, the 1,100, did she give or loan you that for rent? Did you all ever discuss you would repay her?
No, it was like my mom just helping
I
out.
got you. So you all never discussed repayment?
No.
Or that it was a loan, that $1,100?
No, sir.
888 for the power and gas. Never discussed it as you got to pay me back.
No.
700 food. 900, what was the 900 for? Do you remember? She had 2 transfers of 900, 2 days straight. Do you recall?
Not exactly what it was for, but I know we didn't have that conversation.
That's a lot of money to get from your parent and not know what it's for and not recall what it's for. You would say to yourself, well, mama got me out of that. She got me $900, and then the next day she got me another $900. So I told her $1,800. You remember $1,800, receiving $1,800 from mama.
Defendant Isaiah Thomas is being sued by his mother, who claims she grew up in group homes and was sexually, physically, and mentally abused throughout her childhood.
Now, what evidence might you have to indicate there are loans?
Okay, and if I can go back a second, Your Honor. when Mr. Thomas said him and I were not speaking. Him and I were not speaking due to the student loan. It was leave me alone about the student loan. But being that I have lupus, I was told through Sally Mae in Great Lakes that if I had a disability, that I can do a total and permanent where I didn't have to pay back the student loan.
Let me ask you, sir, what do you say about the student loan?
I mean, I was 16 at the time. It was definitely something that I didn't understand it, nor did I think she did when we first originally did it. But I do feel like that was something that we had discussed, that I would pay back that student loan.
You did?
We did.
Your Honor, he didn't pay back the student loan. They used the total, permanent, and disability for me. Okay. Therefore, they wiped that loan clean. Mr. Thomas.
So do you have any evidence that she said these monies were gifts?
I don't have any evidence for that.
Okay, so now I'm tasked with determining who I believe. When there's not enough evidence, the judge must go by who he believes is likely to be telling the truth.
Your Honor, I have proof right here. I have a text message that Mr. Thomas sent me.
What page?
It starts on page 2, goes to page 3.
This is a binding contract for the balance. Hey, Mom. Come on, sir. Oh. What do you have to say about that, sir? She shows me a text where you said, hey, Mom, this is a binding contract. Anything? All right. Judgment for the plaintiff, $5,000. And we're going to get my staff to meet with you about us taking care of your counseling, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
I love you, Isaiah. No, I don't. And I'm honored to be your mom, but I just feel like the communication is where we went wrong. But other than that, you're an awesome son. I wouldn't trade you for anything in the world. And I know that, this here is just a little fork in the road, but I know that you're going to be awesome. You're going to do what you need to do and be awesome.
I'm sorry that it had to happen the way it did.
No problem. I love you.
Do you want to give her a hug?
Come on.